lot of things that were bothering Michael, because I felt the tension. It was subliminal, but I could feel it a lot.
Why are you
I
so
would
sure?
never, ever think differently. Because first of all, Michael told me that they were going to murder him. He was afraid. He was afraid
who
for
was
his
going
life.
to murder him?
The people that were involved in his life, the people that were controlling him.
I used to give him a hard time about the chemical peels and everything else, and he always would tell me things like, I have a blister on my lungs and all those kinds of things.
Just as whispers about Michael Jackson's tragic demise began resurfacing, Quincy Jones, a man who knew it all, suddenly dies at 91. Coincidence or cover-up?
Some breaking news this morning. The American music producer Quincy Jones has died aged 91, and we can't really understate how huge this is.
Quincy was one of the last insiders left who could have exposed the truth about Jackson's death. So why did he die now? Did he know too much? Was he silenced to protect the powerful?
It's almost surrealistic, and I have no way of processing it. In my wildest dreams or nightmares, I never thought that he'd leave before me.
Could Diddy, Oprah, or other elites be involved in making sure Quincy took Hollywood's darkest secrets to the grave?
Michael was one very, very special talent. I mean, really special in every way, in observation, influences, and dancing and singing, everything. He didn't miss a thing, you know.
And if Quincy was targeted, who's next? The music world is mourning the loss of Quincy Jones, the legendary producer behind Michael Jackson's greatest hits. But beneath the tributes lies a chilling theory. Was Quincy targeted by Hollywood elites who wanted to make sure he couldn't reveal what he knew? Quincy was 91, an age many consider a full life. But Quincy Jones wasn't just any icon. He was a man with a history, a legacy, and knowledge of Hollywood's darkest secrets, secrets that could destroy some of the most powerful people in the industry. Quincy Jones has seen it all, from Michael Jackson's meteoric rise to his suspicious death, and he's hinted at knowledge about things Hollywood doesn't want anyone to know.
Michael came over to my house. I'd met him when he was 12 at Sammy's house, when he was about 12 years old. And I remember at the Academy Awards hearing Michael, when he was little, sing Ben, the love story about the rat.
Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson go way back, and any fan will tell you they made music history together. But their story has a darker side. Some say Quincy may have even had a hand in Michael's downfall. In fact, according to Jaguar Wright, Quincy played a big role in Michael Jackson's death.
I truly feel that Conrad Murray is simply the fall guy. This was definitely something that was premeditated, that they had planned to do, and they planned to take my brother out.
And going by what Quincy has been saying about the late singer, it's hard to dispute Wright's stand. Let's rewind. Quincy met Michael when he was just 12 years old, kicking off a partnership that gave us Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. But by the late 80s, they'd parted ways. Why? According to the Los Angeles Times, Michael thought Quincy was old and out of touch. Ouch! After Michael passed in 2009, Quincy went after MJ's estate over what he claimed was misuse of his work on This Is It, and he won a $9.4 million judgment. But that wasn't the end. Quincy went on to spill some serious tea about Michael in 2018, calling him a Machiavellian who stole songs and didn't share credit. Sound like someone with a grudge?
It's the moment. This is it. It's an adventure.
In the now famous Vulture interview, Quincy didn't hold back. When asked, "What's something people don't understand about Jackson?" Quincy went right for it. Michael stole a lot of stuff. He stole a lot of songs, he said straight up. One of those songs? Billie Jean. Quincy claimed MJ lifted the beat from Donna Summer's State of Independence, a track Quincy himself had produced. "The notes don't lie, man," Quincy said. Jackson was as Machiavellian as they come. Greedy, man, greedy. And it didn't stop there. Quincy took issue with Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, written by Greg Philanganes. According to him, Michael should have given Philanganes a cut for his contribution. Turns out, Quincy's not alone in pointing out MJ's influences. Over the years, Michael faced all kinds of accusations about borrowing music. Back in the 90s, he even beat a lawsuit claiming he'd ripped off parts of Thriller, The Girl Is Mine, and We Are the World. And remember Will You Be There? From the Free Willy soundtrack? An Italian songwriter claimed MJ had copied it, but a court eventually let him off the hook. There was also the Belgian case over You Are Not Alone. In 2007, a Belgian court ruled that the track, written by R. Kelly, was too close to a song by composers Eddie and Danny Van Passel. The court banned it from Belgian airwaves. Talk about drama. And Michael even had to settle out of court with Cameroonian musician Manu Dibango over the line, "Mama say mama sa mama kusa" and "Wanna be startin' something." Aside from the plagiarism claims, Quincy took another stab at the king of pop and Vulture, suggesting he used excuses of an illness as a cover for an addiction to cosmetic surgery, triggered by years of physical and emotional abuse in the singer's childhood. He had a problem with his looks because his father told him he was ugly and abused him, the producer claimed. Michael's alleged abuser, his father, Joe Jackson, who died in June 2018, responded to statements questioning his son's legacy by calling Quincy jealous of his son's talent. He also pointed the finger at any plagiarism at Quincy for producing the songs. He says my son stole it, but he was the producer on both Billie Jean and State of Independence. So if anybody is wrong, it would be Quincy, the elder Jackson said. He, however, did not comment on the assertion that he had AB'd his child.
Anybody that says they know they're going to sell 104 million albums or whatever it was, are lying. You don't do that. You make something that you love, man.
In the same interview, a second unnamed family member suggested that Quincy was still bitter because Michael had lobbied against the producer getting a Grammy for the Thriller album in 1982. Michael did all of the work, the source said. It's his music, and everyone knows Michael's sound. And Thriller was all Michael Jackson. Michael wasn't the only music legend Quincy spilled tea about in the interview. Opening that rock music was just a white version of rhythm and blues. The producer recalled that his first impression of the early years Beatles was that they were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing B, he went on. Paul McCartney was the worst bass player I ever heard. And Ringo Starr? Don't even talk about it. Quincy then recounted an equally unflattering anecdote about bringing in jazz drummer Ronnie Verrill to fix a track Starr had spent hours trying to get right. Nearly 40 years after its release, Michael Jackson's Bad continues to be debated among music critics and fans of the king of pop. By any measure, it stands as one of the most successful pop music recordings of the modern era. Yet, Bad has long lived in the shadow of its predecessor. Thriller, the best-selling album of all time, and Michael's creative and commercial peak made the stakes for Bad impossibly high. MJ had to sustain the pop idol hysteria unleashed by Thriller and prove the album's success was no fluke. Bad had to put to rest any questions about the singer's artistic bona fides as a songwriter and solo artist. Michael also had to restore his image following the Jacksons' problem-plagued Victory Tour. With so much riding on the album, every choice made regarding Bad carried the weight of a nuclear strike. The release of Bad 25 in 2012 provided listeners with an opportunity to examine Bad in terms of what was left of the album. From that vantage point, it's clear that while Bad is unquestionably the product of Michael's creative genius, much of the credit for shaping it into the solid album it became goes to Quincy Jones, a master producer whose golden ears harnessed the singer's instincts into hits.
A lot of people misunderstand me. That's because they don't know me.
Experience the untold story of the legendary album that changed music history with never-before-seen footage.
With the Victory Tour completed in December 1984, Michael spent early 1985 cleaning up at the Grammys, co-creating We Are the World, and filming Disney's Captain EO. Afterward, the legendary singer headed to The Laboratory, his home studio at Havenhurst in Encino, California. There, he wrote and recorded demos with producer Bill Bottrell and arranger John Barnes, giving him a measure of artistic control over the work he had long desired. He wrote 62 songs and recorded dozens of demos through 1986, and at one point envisioned Bad as a triple album. At the same time, there was a tremendous amount of pressure from Epic and CBS and the whole entertainment industry for Michael to get on with following up the aging Thriller album. MJ also placed a great deal of pressure on himself. His stated goal, written on his bathroom mirror, was to sell 100 million copies of the album. Reaching that goal required hits, and that's where Quincy Jones came in. Quincy's judicious song selection, sequencing, and unifying touch were essential in achieving Michael's creative and commercial vision for Bad.
Michael sent me a note. Could you please take off the violins in the introduction? No, it's messed up my groove. You know what that line was? Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle.
By August 1986, the singer was sending demos over to Quincy at Westlake Audio in Los Angeles for review, re-recording, and overdubs. Sessions with Michael at Westlake got serious in January 1987. When you get a song you feel you like, you put it down with a rhythm section to get it on its feet, and then you hear Michael sing a couple of takes on it, maybe with a couple of background lines to see how it holds up, so you can see what it might be and you're not just wasting your time, Quincy told Mix in 2007. The award-winning composer focused on quality instead of quantity and convinced Michael to abandon the triple album concept. Every album has extra songs that didn't make it to the album. There's a little bit of advice I like to use all the time on an album. We went through 800 songs to get to Thriller, and we ended up with 9, finally. They must have been very impressive to us, Quincy told Music Week in 2010. When you get to 9, the producer has to, in his mind, pick and be very honest and say, these 4 in relation to the 9 are the weakest of the entire 9. It takes a lot of truth to do that. You have to bury the ego. Demos on Bad 25 like Don't Be Messin' Around and I'm So Blue illustrate Quincy's point. Don't Be Messin' Around has a light, bouncy beat that recalls both Dancing in the Streets and Thriller's Wanna Be Startin' Something, but doesn't have the buoyancy of Bad's The Way You Make Me Feel. Song Groove, aka Abortion Papers, could have been a sequel to Billie Jean, but its controversial subject matter can't substitute for the haunting tone of its predecessor and makes Dirty Diana a stronger choice. Many of the demos, like Free and The Price of Fame, find Michael longing for respite from his post-Thriller world. Price of Fame, which was planned for use in a 1987 Pepsi commercial, has a groove reminiscent of Billie Jean, with the singer's most personal lyrics to date. I want a face no one can recognize. My joy has turned to pain. I feel the pressure setting in. I'm living just to win. Just sign your name on the dotted line. You'll be fine. That always bothers me. My father always told me, you won't live a quiet life. If you're reaching for fortune and fame, father never lies. My father never lies. My father never lies. The lyrics may have been too personal to make it onto the album, making Leave Me Alone a milder proxy for the singer's inner turmoil. Bad 25 also includes previously released material from the Bad sessions, like Streetwalker and Fly Away. The former finds Michael on familiar terrain exploring street life, but the song lacks a hook. Fly Away may be the strongest and most complete of the songs left off of Bad, but it pales in comparison to ballads like Liberian Girl that did make the cut. Several songs Michael recorded for Bad remain unreleased. Bad Company, Broken Chair, Buffalo Bill, Crack, Get Back on Me, The Hunt, Tomboy, What You Do to Me. One song, Cheater, was released on 2004's The Ultimate Collection. With so many Michael compositions to choose from, it's telling that among the last songs to be recorded for Bad was Man in the Mirror, a song the Hall of Famer did not write. By this time, 2 years after demo sessions began, Quincy was anxious for an indisputable hit to complete the album. Bad was finished in July 1987 at a cost of $2 million. The album sold 35 million copies worldwide, 8 million in the United States alone, and yielded 5 #1 singles. Numbers most acts today would to have. Still, Bad would be Quincy's final project with Michael. Some say it was a clean break, as Bad was the third in a 3-album contract between the two. Others contend that the singer wanted more creative control and artistic recognition. After Bad peaked, David Geffen began advising Michael in preparation for upcoming contract negotiations with Sony. Geffen reportedly engineered the departure of Michael's attorney, John Branca, his manager, Frank DeLeo, and ultimately Quincy Jones. According to the producer, key members of Michael's entourage, including his attorney, were whispering in his ear that I'd been getting too much credit. Quincy also claims he was also unfairly blamed for Bad's inability to surpass Thriller's sales and accolades, as Michael would leave the Grammys empty-handed in 1988. He thought I was getting too old for the business because Bad didn't sell 100 million, the producer told the Financial Times in 2012. I said, Michael, you can't get used to 50, 60 million albums. Come on, man. You can't tell me that 30 million is a bomb. The singer disagreed and told his manager that I was losing it, Quincy said to the New York Times in 2012. In any case, the now 91-year-old record producer didn't want to spend another 3 years working on one album. I ain't gonna sit around in the studio for 3 years to make an album with Michael, he told the Chicago Tribune in 1995. Too long, too long. Bad was too long for me. None of Michael's post-Quincy albums would match the success of Bad, with some claiming that he used his network to frustrate the singer after he decided to ditch him. While much of this has to do with the controversies that enveloped Michael until his death in 2009, Quincy revealed that he believed the albums also lacked the discipline and cohesion of Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. In any case, on the 25th of June 2009, at the age of 50 years, Michael died at his residence on North Carrollwood Drive. The celebrated entertainer died of cardiac arrest caused due to propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication, at least going by what the authorities revealed, but some quarters believe he was tactically eliminated. A day before he died, Michael had gone for a rehearsal at Staples Center. He complained of laryngitis and did not rehearse till 9 p.m., after which the trial went well. Conrad Murray, the singer's personal physician, discovered the pop star in his bedroom with no breath. The doctor performed CPR and decided to move Michael quickly to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Hidden treasure trove of his life is with me, but I have protected Michael up till now.
Following his death, investigations to arrive at the root cause of the end of Michael continued. Investigations have found that Conrad had used a non-conventional method of CPR on a soft bed instead of a hard surface. A case of involuntary manslaughter was slapped on the doctor, due to which he was sentenced to prison for 4 years. However, he was released after 2 years for good behavior. Again, does that make sense? 4 years for causing death, then released after just 2? Who was really pulling the strings here? Expectedly, after the death of Michael Jackson, investigators felt there was foul play involved. The Los Angeles Police Department investigated to ascertain the exact reason for his death and determine any conspiracy theories around it. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office carried out the autopsy on the body of the singer and classified the death as a homicide. The reason for death was determined to be combined drug intoxication. Paris, the daughter of Michael Jackson, was apparent in her allegations. She stated that her father was M. Even though investigations could not establish the motive behind the M, most people believe Conrad's prime suspect would have gained if Michael was alive rather than dead. Conrad was on M.J, quote, S payroll, making around $150,000 a month.
Whatever happened to Michael when I was not there, it's probably his own misjudgment. And I believe that clearly happened because he was illogical, he was irrational, and he was in a withdrawal state from Demerol, which Dr. Arnold Klein was feeding him.
However, Conrad was found guilty of involuntary and imprisoned for 2 years in the California prison. Reportedly, the singer used to take antidepressants in significant quantities. The use of antidepressant drugs points to M.J, quote, as suffering from depression. Michael used anti-anxiety medications like alprazolam and sertraline. When the entertainer was fighting a C abuse case, he was believed to be taking 40 pills of alprazolam every night before he retired to bed. Also, reportedly, one of the antidepressant drugs heavily used by Michael was propofol. It is a drug used as anesthesia in hospitals under medical supervision. After his death, investigations found many bottles of the drug in his house. The pop superstar suffered from acute insomnia and used an anesthetist to administer propofol to sleep. Medical experts believe that the overuse of this drug may have caused his cardiac arrest. The pop superstar and greatest showman of the 20th century was laid to rest at Los Angeles' Forest Lawn Cemetery. More than 11,000 fans thronged the solemn occasion, though only family members participated in his actual funeral.
But today, attention will focus away from those criminal and federal investigations to Forest Lawn, Glendale, the cemetery where Michael Jackson's funeral will take place.
After Michael's death, doctors kept his brain to run detailed tests. They believed that since he died of a suspected drug overdose, examining his brain could reveal more about his final moments and pinpoint the exact cause of death. For 2 weeks, doctors conducted neuropathology tests, hoping to get a clearer picture of what went wrong. However, this decision delayed his burial. Michael's family, deeply saddened by his loss, insisted on laying him to rest with all of his organs intact. They didn't want to bury him without his brain, even if it was for medical purposes. So they requested that the Los Angeles Coroner's Office return it. Respecting the family's wishes, doctors re-implanted the brain, allowing them to finally hold his funeral. Even now, years later, Michael's fans haven't found peace with the official explanation. Millions of fans still question the events surrounding his death and believe it was no accident. Some are convinced he was claiming powerful people may have played a role. Conspiracy theories have even suggested that music mogul Quincy Jones, who had worked closely with Michael, was somehow connected to a possible plot. In any case, as the world mourns Quincy's passing, the questions surrounding his death only grow louder. Was this simply the end of a life well lived, or the final act in a long list of cover-ups? Did Quincy know too much about Michael Jackson's death? And if so, did Hollywood's elite make sure he'd never speak out? Quincy Jones may be gone, but his secrets may still live on. Hollywood might think it has buried the truth, but people are starting to ask questions they can't ignore. Was Quincy silenced? And if so, who's next? Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.